Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down exactly what happens when a massive group of the world's biggest YouTubers try to survive a full week in an ancient, massive Romanian salt mine. But really quick, before we start descending into the depths, make sure to subscribe to the Titan Player channel so you never miss out on these deep dives. Okay, let's jump right into this. We are looking at a 1,000-year-old subterranean world that seriously feels like something straight out of a sci-fi movie. It's totally real though, and this social experiment of trapping high-energy content creators down there for 7 days, it is nothing short of a fascinating look at cabin fever. Let's see how it all started.
Alright, so the magic number you need to keep in mind here is 400. That's 400 feet straight down. The original crew kicked off their 7-day challenge by descending this massive distance into a cavern that dates back over a millennium. Get this, during World War II, thousands of people actually used this exact place to hide from bombings. But for this week, it was transformed into a chaotic YouTuber base camp. They set up their initial sleeping arrangements right on a bridge, surrounded by this incredibly eerie underground lake. Just try to imagine the sheer scale of the ceiling above them, and these pitch-black tunnels stretching out in every single direction. It's basically the perfect, terrifying blank canvas to test the psychological limits of a survival challenge.
Now, a quiet week in a cave wouldn't make for much of an explainer, right? So to keep the momentum going, the organizers implemented this brilliant, chaotic strategy. Every single morning, that elevator would come creeping down from the surface carrying a famous new content creator. We're talking Gideon on day 2, to paranormal experts Sam and Colby, to streaming giant Cenat, all the way to Logan Paul, Speed, and Vicstar. This wasn't just about adding new faces to the mix, it was a literal psychological pressure cooker. Steadily adding more and more gigantic personalities into an enclosed underground city, that is a guaranteed recipe to drive the entire group into absolute chaos.
Those first few days were all about exploration. And guys, it was genuinely creepy. The expanding group, led by paranormal investigators Sam and Colby, ventured deep into uncharted tunnels. They were conquering some serious fears of heights on ancient, rickety stairs and stumbling upon menacing doors literally boarded up with signs reading "Access Forbidden." At one point, they even uncovered this haunted altar marked with a massive cross where spirits were allegedly seen and a giant dark void that just endlessly echoed their voices. It was super intense, but thankfully they were munching on Feastables bars to keep morale up while trekking through the darkness.
Survival down there wasn't just about navigating spooky tunnels, though. They had to deal with basic human needs. The crew had to get super innovative to stay clean, and they actually managed to engineer a makeshift shower out of absolute basic supplies in just 3 easy steps. By poking holes in a plastic cap, filling a heavy jug with water, and hoisting it up to hang from the cave ceiling, they created a fully functioning shower to wash off the accumulating cave stench. When you're living 400 feet underground, I promise you, these tiny comforts make a massive difference to your mental state and overall group cohesion.
But here's the thing, sanity is a really fragile thing. So what actually happens when you trap content creators underground with way too much free time? Well, by day 4, the answer became aggressively clear. The arrival of Cenat pushed the group's underlying boredom way past the breaking point. The moment the excitement of exploration faded, mischief took over, sparking a vicious, full-blown prank war. In the dead of night, Carl and Gideon snuck out, set up a mannequin on the bridge, and blasted Kai's song Bust Down Rolly Avalanche at full volume while everyone else was just trying to sleep. The peace of the underground city was officially shattered.
And yeah, that prank had immediate consequences. Kai woke up declaring, "I will dedicate my entire life to their destruction." Lines were literally drawn in the cave dirt, and enemies were formed. It's actually fascinating how quickly cabin fever turns minor annoyances into all-out warfare. This escalating tension perfectly set the stage for the day 5 guest, Logan Paul. Sensing the animosity the moment he stepped off the elevator and getting instantly tired of the pranksters, Logan immediately retaliated on behalf of the group by taking Carl's entire bed and throwing it right off the bridge into the underground lake. The prank war had officially gone nuclear.
Okay, so with the prank war escalating and beds ending up in lakes, someone had to step in. Enter York New City. This was a messy, super chaotic underground society temporarily ruled by Mayor Cenat. To establish some semblance of order, or honestly, maybe just to exact his revenge, Kai stepped up as the dictatorial mayor, and he wasted absolutely zero time abusing his power. He instantly started making these ridiculous demands, forcing the crew to move their belongings around for no reason, and most notably, he straight up exiled the pranksters Carl and Gideon, forcing them to sleep 15 flights of stairs up inside the actual elevator.
But as history tells us, authoritarian rules usually lead to a massive social divide and, ultimately, a rebellion. Mayor Kai pushed things way too far when he forced the original crew, the Day Oneers, out of their comfortable camp beds and banished them back to the bridge. Why? To make a quote-unquote master bedroom setup for the new gens, the creators who had just arrived. This blatant favoritism perfectly highlights exactly how quickly group dynamics can fracture in isolation. The original team, just completely fed up with the dictatorship and the ridiculous town hall meetings, officially quit his society and walked out.
So the crucial point here is that the Day Oneers desperately needed an escape from all this underground political madness. They decided to leave base camp and go on their own daily exploration. They approached this massive wall that looked exactly like a dead end, but miraculously, it was a fake door leading to an impossibly long hidden tunnel. And what was at the end of that tunnel? A fully stocked Zaxby's, complete with MrBeast boxes and dipping sauces. I mean, it was a totally surreal moment, finding an oasis of fried chicken and Feastables hidden away in a 1,000-year-old salt mine, far, far away from Mayor Kai's ridiculous rules.
Thankfully, the tension eventually cooled down. The rival factions reunited, they toppled the corrupt government, and they shared some peace offerings of lunchly meals. But peace doesn't necessarily smell great. When the final guests, IShowSpeed and Vicstar, arrived in a giant wooden box, Speed immediately pointed out the painfully obvious. He looked at them and said,
"I ain't gonna lie, bro. I love y'all, but y'all stink."
Even with their makeshift jug shower, spending almost an entire week deep underground had definitely taken its physical toll. Speed had to immediately start shoving Old Spice deodorant at the original crew to combat that intense cave must.
With Speed and Vicstar's arrival, the underground population had now swollen to 9 restless, super high-energy YouTubers. The dynamic shifted completely, going from surviving and exploring to simply trying to figure out how to entertain themselves in a massive cave. When you pack that many creators into an enclosed space, the constant pressure to perform and the creeping boredom of isolation just collide. The final days devolved into absolute absurdity as they fought off the cabin fever of being trapped with each other.
They basically turned this historic 1,000-year-old salt mine into the world's most epic and probably dangerous sports arena. We're talking high-stakes full-squad soccer. They played cave golf with a $100 bounty for a hole-in-one. They even scaled a massive subterranean Ferris wheel. They set up projectors to play video games straight onto the towering cave walls, and in the most terrifying stunt of the whole week, they climbed to the absolute highest, sketchiest peak of the cavern to drop prime bottles and parachuting Feastables bars to the crew below. Guys, the drop was so high, it literally took a full 10 seconds for the items to hit the ground. It was incredible to watch.
But you know, all good things and all terrifying underground challenges must eventually come to an end. It was finally time to touch grass. On the final night, the massive crew gathered for a campfire recap in this carved-out amphitheater, just reflecting on the madness, the prank wars, and the sheer scale of what they just accomplished. The next morning, they packed up their totally chaotic camp, boarded that elevator one last time, and returned to the surface, shielding their eyes as they saw blinding, beautiful sunlight for the very first time in an entire week.
Which leaves us with one final, very important question for you to ponder. How long do you think you could survive the underground city before totally losing your mind? Because as this explainer brilliantly illustrates, it's not the creepy ancient tunnels, the haunting altars, or the pitch-black voids that will break you. No, it's the intense psychological pressure of trying to live peacefully with 9 bored YouTubers for a week. That's all for today's deep dive. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.